I am Zane Carver, 38 years old. I've just finished an important meeting and successfully signed a contract with my company's largest European partner in Copenhagen, Denmark. 10 grueling days of work have finally paid off. Adrenaline is still coursing through my veins. According to the original schedule, I was supposed to fly straight back to Boston tonight. But as I watched the snow falling outside the glass corridor, the rush of triumph suddenly quieted. I remembered how many times I'd promised to visit Mom, only to let work sweep me away again. I decided to stay 2 extra days and go see her. My mother, Ruth Carver, the kindest woman I've ever known, now lives in Lyon, France with my younger brother, Kendrick. It's been 6 whole years since I last saw her. 6 long years since she decided to move to France to settle with Kendrick and help him take care of his family. I still remember vividly the day she left Boston, the tight hug that left me choking back tears. But work swallowed me up, and I told myself she was doing fine over there. This visit I didn't tell her in advance. I wanted to surprise her. I quietly booked a flight from Copenhagen to Lyon and bought a small gift she'd love. A soft wool scarf in pale blue, just like the one she knitted for me when I was little. I imagined the moment she'd see me, her eyes lighting up, then pulling me into a big, tight hug. The thought made me smile to myself while waiting at the airport. The flight lasted a little over 3 hours. When I arrived, Lyon greeted me with the crisp chill of autumn, and I quickly took a taxi to Kendrick's house. The house is on the outskirts of Lyon, a small 2-story apartment with a tiny garden. I stood in front of the door, heart pounding. I rang the bell and waited. Quite a while. Finally, hurried footsteps approached and the door opened. There was Kendrick. And in that moment, his reaction was utterly strange. He didn't look happy or excited to see his big brother at all. Instead, his face went pale, his eyes darted away as if he'd seen a ghost in broad daylight. Then he forced an awkward, lopsided smile, the kind I instantly knew was fake. "Zane, bro, what are you doing here? Why didn't you tell us you were coming?" His voice trembled slightly, nothing like the cocky little brother I used to know. I laughed and clapped him on the shoulder. "Surprise, right? I just finished a business trip in Denmark and thought I'd swing by to see you and Mom. What's wrong? Not gonna invite your brother inside?" Kendrick blinked rapidly, then nodded vigorously and opened the door wider. "Yeah, come in, come in. I was just really shocked, that's all." He led me into the living room and started asking about work and life in Boston, but his eyes kept shifting, never quite meeting mine. His voice was tense, his hands constantly rubbing together as if he were nervous about something. I could clearly sense something was off. He was talking to me, but his mind seemed miles away. "How's work? Big contract, huh?" he asked, staring out the window. I nodded and gave him a brief rundown of the Denmark trip, but my own thoughts were starting to race. Why is he acting like this? Is he hiding something? My heart began beating faster. An uneasy feeling crept in. "Where's Mom?" I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. "I haven't seen her yet. Is she okay?" Kendrick answered quickly, almost stuttering. Mom's downstairs in the kitchen preparing dinner." I stood up on my own and headed down to the kitchen. The faint smell of baking drifted through the air, and there she was, hunched over the counter, kneading dough. She looked thinner than I'd imagined, her back slightly stooped. "Mom," I called softly, my voice a little hoarse. She turned around and froze. Her eyes widened, then she rushed over and hugged me tightly. "Zane, my boy? Oh my God, you're here. You've given me the shock of my life, and you didn't even tell me so I could prepare some of your favorite dishes." She fired off questions in rapid succession, overjoyed to the point I could barely answer. "When did you get here? Why didn't you call? How's work? Are you tired?" She held me tight, tears welling in her eyes. I hugged her back, breathing in the familiar scent of flour and soap. "I wanted to surprise you. I missed you so much." But then Kendrick appeared beside us and quickly cut in. "Mom, let him rest first. We can talk more over dinner." His tone was hurried, almost as if he wanted to interrupt. She nodded, wiping her tears, but I looked at her more closely. Her hair had gone much grayer. Her skin was weathered from sun and wind. Her hands were calloused, the fingers that once gently stroked my hair now rough and worn. Her thin shoulders seemed to carry an invisible burden. Even though she was smiling brightly, I could see a sadness in her eyes she couldn't fully hide. My heart tightened. "Mom, how have you been living these past 6 years? Why do you look so tired?" I sat down on the old wooden chair in the kitchen, forcing a smile onto my face, but my mind was in turmoil. Mom turned back to her mound of dough, kneading it mechanically, as if baking were her way of escaping the questions hanging in the air. "Mom, tell me, how's life in Lyon? Is taking care of little Louis wearing you out?" I asked gently, hoping to pull her out of the silence. She looked up and gave a faint smile. "It's fine, son. Louis is almost 5 now, so naughty." Time crawled by in that small kitchen. I told her about work in Boston, about Carver Innovations, about the big contract I'd just signed in Denmark. She listened and nodded, but her eyes kept drifting toward the window, as if she were waiting for something. The ticking of the clock echoed loudly, and a growing unease settled in my chest. Why wasn't she asking more questions? Why wasn't she laughing the way she used to? Those thoughts made my heart beat faster. As dusk fell, the front door opened. The sharp click-clack of high heels on the wooden floor mingled with a child's babbling voice. Camille Morel, Kendrick's wife, 31 years old, walked in with their son Louis. She works as a sales assistant at a fashion boutique in Lyon. She's always impeccably dressed, hair in a high bun, lips painted bright red. Louis, a cute little boy with curly hair, toddled behind her. Both of them froze for a split second when they saw me sitting there. Camille's eyes widened, then she quickly slipped back into her usual indifferent expression. "Oh, Zane, long time no see." Her tone was flat, as if I were some distant acquaintance rather than her brother-in-law. Louis stared at me, then hid behind his mother's legs. "Hi, Uncle," he mumbled. I smiled and waved. "Hey, buddy. You've grown so much I almost didn't recognize you." Camille just nodded, hung her coat on the rack, plopped down on the sofa, and immediately buried herself in her phone without a single word to Ruth. Mom came out of the kitchen smiling. "Camille, you're home? Let me warm up the food." Camille nodded, eyes still glued to her screen, scrolling away. I watched, and the unease inside me began to surge. Mom hurried back to the kitchen, preparing dinner all by herself. Kendrick sat next to his wife, whispered something, then turned to me. "My wife's had a long day at work, bro. Selling fashion is exhausting." I nodded, but my eyes stayed on Mom. By dinner time, everything became painfully clear. My mother ran back and forth, setting the table, carrying dishes from the kitchen, then going back to clean up. Meanwhile, Camille sat idly, chatting and laughing with Louis, scrolling endlessly on her phone. She didn't lift a finger to help, not even once. I looked at Kendrick, hoping he'd say something, but he just gave an awkward smile and avoided my gaze. Dinner was served. Toasted bread, salad, stew, all made by Mom. We sat around the table, but the atmosphere was heavy as lead. Mom ate quietly, only answering when I spoke directly to her. "Mom, eat more. You look so thin." She smiled. "I'm fine, honey." But this was nothing like the cheerful, lively mother I remembered, the one who used to be the heart of every family meal, telling jokes that made everyone roar with laughter. Now she was silent, eyes fixed on her plate. Camille was the complete opposite. She kept ordering Mom around. "Mom, could you grab me a glass of water? More napkins, please. Can you feed Louis for me? He's being fussy." All while she ate with one hand and scrolled through her phone with the other, giggling at the screen. Ruth never complained or pushed back. She simply got up quietly, fetched whatever was asked, fed Louis, then sat back down to eat, as if she'd grown completely used to this rhythm long ago. I watched, heat rising in my face. My heart pounded, blood rushing to my head. Why does she have to do this? Why is Camille treating her like a servant? I tried to stay calm, but I couldn't hold it in any longer. "Camille, put the phone down and take care of your own kid. Mom's trying to eat." My voice came out sharper than I intended. though I was still trying to keep it civil. Camille looked up, gave me a quick, annoyed glance, then completely ignored me and went back to scrolling. Kendrick immediately jumped in, voice apologetic. "Bro, Camille's exhausted from work all day. Mom's home anyway, so it's normal for her to help out a bit." But his eyes darted away. He knew he was lying. Mom gently placed a hand on my shoulder. "It's okay, son. Don't get upset. I like taking care of my kids and grandkids." Her voice trembled slightly and her smile looked forced. Camille leaned back in her chair, a smug little smirk on her lips, shooting me a challenging glance that clearly said, "Who are you to tell me what to do?" I swallowed my anger, forcing myself to stay calm so I wouldn't ruin the family evening. But inside, the unease was roaring. My heart was racing, cold sweat breaking out. Something was seriously wrong here. Does Mom get treated like this every single day? And Kendrick knows and just lets it happen? Dinner ended in silence. I tried to help Mom clean up, but she shook her head. "Go rest, honey." Camille stood up, dragged Louis off to bath time, and didn't say thank you. Kendrick walked me to the door. "You're flying back tomorrow, right?" he asked, sounding oddly relieved. I nodded, but first hugged Mom goodbye. "Take care of yourself, okay? I'll call more often." She held me tight, tears rolling down her cheeks. "Safe travels, my boy." Then I left, my steps heavy. I checked into a 5-star hotel near the airport, a spacious suite with a glittering view of the city. But I didn't sleep a wink that night. I lay in bed, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. My gut was screaming that something was deeply wrong in Kendrick, Camille, and Mom's household. The images spun in my head. Mom rushing around, Camille's smug face, Kendrick avoiding my eyes. Why is Mom doing everything? What happened to the money I send every month? Is she living like a maid? The questions hammered at me, twisting my heart. I sat up, opened my laptop, and checked the transfer history. Regular, not a single payment missing. Yet Mom looked miserable. Anxiety rising, I made a decision. I'm not flying home tomorrow. I'm staying. I'm going to watch and I'm going to find out the truth. The next morning, I packed my bags as planned, called a taxi, and headed to the airport to fly back to the States. Lyon was chilly, a thin fog blanketing the streets. I sat in the back seat staring out the window, my heart heavy as lead. Last night's dinner kept replaying in my mind. Mom getting up again and again, Camille scrolling indifferently on her phone, Kendrick rubbing his hands nervously. My pulse raced, cold sweat broke out despite the car heater. Why do I have to leave now? What if something's really wrong? That thought looped endlessly until I could barely breathe. Halfway to the airport, the unease crashed over me like a wave. I couldn't take it anymore. "Stop! Turn around." Back to Lyon. I told the driver urgently. He glanced at me in the rearview mirror and raised an eyebrow. "You sure? We're almost at the airport." I nodded frantically, heart pounding. "Positive. Take me back to the suburbs near the house I visited yesterday." The taxi turned around. Relief and anxiety mixed inside me. I checked into a small guest house just a few hundred meters from Kendrick's place, hidden behind a row of trees. The room was simple, an old wooden bed, but private enough to watch without being noticed. I dropped my bag, pulled the curtains slightly apart, and stared at the street. My heart had never beaten this fast. What am I doing? Stalking my own brother's family? But my gut screamed, "You have to. Mom is suffering and you need proof." I called my assistant in Boston and postponed everything. I need a few more days in France. Don't ask why. Then I sat there waiting, nerves on edge like an amateur detective in a film noir. For the next few days, I watched from a cafe across the street. Every morning at dawn, before the sun was even up, Mom was already awake, doing every single household chore from dawn till dusk without a break. I watched her sweep the yard, clean the rooms, wash and hang laundry in the garden, trim the plants, scrub the floors until they shone, cook 3 meals a day, everything alone, never resting. She moved like a machine, back slightly bent, calloused hands gripping the broom or pots. My chest ached every time she paused to catch her breath or wipe sweat from her brow. "Mom, why do you have to suffer like this?" I whispered to myself, tears threatening to spill. Childhood memories flooded back. She used to stay up late and wake early for us too, but back then she was smiling, full of energy. Now she was just a shadow, worn down by endless labor. What made my blood boil was Camille's attitude when she came home in the late afternoon. Dressed impeccably from the boutique, she'd walk in, and if anything wasn't perfect, dust on the floor, dinner not ready, laundry still damp, she'd immediately scowl, mouth moving angrily, pointing aggressively at Mom. I couldn't hear the words from afar, but I saw her lips curl in rage, eyes glaring, while Mom simply lowered her head and redid the task without a single complaint. Mom would scrub the floor again, rearrange things, or rush back to the kitchen to fix the food, meek, resigned, as if this were normal. And Kendrick, he never once defended her. He'd come home, collapse on the sofa, and let his wife berate and order their own mother around with sharp gestures and muttered words. When Camille pointed and shouted, he'd even put a hand on his wife's shoulder to calm her down instead of standing up for Mom. Watching from a distance, I clenched my fists so hard my nails dug into my palms, blood roaring in my ears. How could he do this? My own flesh and blood brother letting our mother be treated like a slave just to keep his wife happy? It was crystal clear. Camille treated Mom like a free maid. Never a thank you, only scowls and silent scolding. And Kendrick, with his stupid, spineless loyalty to his wife, always took her side with silent nods, as if he feared losing her more than he loved his own mother. Rage and pain twisted inside me. I wanted to storm in, kick the door down, confront them, and drag Mom back to America that very second. "That's enough! You're coming with me!" I imagined myself shouting. But I held back. I knew Mom would refuse. She always sacrificed herself, always tried to keep the peace. It would only make things messier. She might even be angry at me. So I waited, watched, the tension building day by day. Every night back at the guest house, I lay awake, haunted by the image of her bowed head. What do I do? How much longer? On the last day before I planned to leave, I decided to sneak closer for one final look at Mom. Night was falling, Lyon's streetlights glowing dimly. I hid behind a maple tree, heart thumping like a drum. Inside, the kitchen light was on. Through the window, I saw Mom stirring a pot of soup. Her hand trembled. The pot slipped, crashing to the floor with a loud clang. Soup splattered everywhere. Camille, scrolling on the sofa in the living room, jumped up in fury. Her shrill voice cut through the air like a knife. "Oh my God, what are you doing? Useless. Get on your knees and clean every single stain." My heart stopped for a second, blood turning to ice. Mom silently obeyed. She knelt on the floor and began wiping with a rag. When she struggled to stand, Camille marched over and shoved her hard, sending her crashing back down. "You call that clean? Do it again." Mom's eyes filled with tears, hands shaking as she wiped again, her frail body curled up on the floor. Seeing my mother treated like that, rage exploded inside me like a volcano. Blood rushed to my head, ears ringing. I stopped thinking. I slammed the front door open and stormed in. The door banged against the wall, echoing through the house. Both Ruth and Camille froze and whipped around. Camille's face went white as a sheet. She stumbled back, avoiding my eyes. Mom quickly wiped her tears and tried to stand as if nothing had happened, voice trembling. "Zane? You haven't left yet?" I ignored her and strode straight up to Camille, face hard as stone, voice thundering. "You dare lay a hand on my mother? Who the hell do you think you are to push her?" Camille stammered, trying to defend herself. "No, it wasn't like that. She fell on her own. I was just..." But her pale, guilty face betrayed her. Her eyes darted everywhere. I was burning with fury. I pointed right in her face. "Don't lie. I was watching through the window. I saw everything. You called her useless, made her kneel and clean the floor, then shoved her down." My heart pounded wildly, breath coming in gasps. Hearing the commotion, Kendrick ran downstairs, shocked. "Zane, you're still here?" But instead of asking what happened, he stepped in front of his wife and snapped, "What are you doing? You can't yell at my wife in my house." Camille immediately started crying crocodile tears, playing the victim. "Zane, you've misunderstood." I looked at them coldly, voice calm but razor sharp. "I've been watching for days. I've seen Mom treated like a servant, working from morning till night, scolded, ordered around. What just happened crossed every line I can tolerate. I'm taking Mom back to America, right now." Mom grabbed my hand, trembling, shaking her head as tears rolled down. "No, son, it's not a big deal. I'm used to life here. I want to stay and take care of the kids and grandkids." But I saw the fear in her eyes. Fear of leaving, fear of breaking the family apart, not a real desire to stay. I understood everything had gone too far. My heart felt like it was being torn apart. Camille crossed her arms, lifted her chin, and said smugly, "Oh, if you think you can take care of her better, go ahead and take her. Good luck with that." A direct challenge. Faced with her insolence, Kendrick just stood there, rubbing his hands awkwardly, looking uncomfortable but saying nothing. I couldn't stand another second. I took Mom's hand and squeezed it tight. "Let's go, Mom. You're not staying here anymore." We walked out of Kendrick's house. Behind us, the door slammed shut on Camille's frustrated screams and fake crying. I took Mom to the guest house where I'd been staying not far away. She was silent the whole way, clutching my hand, steps heavy. Once inside the room, I ordered food from a nearby place, sandwiches, salad, juice, hoping she'd eat something. But she touched nothing, just sat on the bed staring into space. Mother and son barely spoke. We sat in heavy silence, each lost in our own storm of emotions. I looked at her, thin, red-eyed, and the question screamed inside me. Why did you let it get this bad? But I didn't dare ask. I was afraid of hurting her more. She glanced at me as if reading my thoughts and forced a weak smile. "I'm okay, son." But the air remained thick with pain. The truth was out, but the journey wasn't over. That night we sat side by side in silence, waiting for dawn. To lighten the mood, I told her about Boston, about the company, but she only nodded, eyes distant. The past 6 years must have been tormenting her. I blamed myself. Why didn't I come sooner? The money I sent Kendrick every month, now I knew something was seriously wrong with it. My heart still raced, anger still simmering. But now she was here, safe. I hugged her and whispered, "From now on, I'll take care of you." She gently squeezed my hand, tears falling softly. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the thin curtains of the little room in Lyon, softly illuminating the space. I woke early and ordered breakfast from a nearby cafe. Fresh baguette, cheese, fruit, and steaming coffee. Mom stirred awake, her eyes still red and swollen, but she managed a smile when she saw me. "My boy, did you sleep well?" she asked, her voice hoarse. I shook my head and sat down beside her. We ate breakfast together at the small wooden table, but the air remained heavy. She nibbled on a piece of bread, eyes lowered while I watched her, my heart twisting. "Mom, today I'm taking you back to America with me. You'll live with me, Savannah, and little Daisy. Our place in Boston is spacious. You'll be comfortable there." I repeated the offer, my voice firm yet gentle. At first, Ruth refused, shaking her head vigorously. "No, son. I'm used to it here. Kendrick and Camille, they need me. Louis is still so young." Her voice trembled, her eyes avoiding mine as if she were trying to convince herself. But I wouldn't back down. My heart raced at the thought of her returning to that hellish house. "Mom, I've seen everything. You can't stay there. I won't let you suffer any longer. Come with me. You'll have a better life. I promise." I took her hands, squeezing them tightly, my voice thick with emotion. She was silent for a long time, tears rolling down her cheeks. Finally, she nodded weakly, almost reluctantly. All right, son. I'll go with you." Relief flooded through me, but the unease lingered. Was she agreeing because she was exhausted? or because she was afraid. I quickly booked tickets for the afternoon flight to Boston. We packed her few belongings. She had almost nothing, just a handful of old clothes, and headed to the airport. On the way, she was quiet, staring out the taxi window, clutching her purse tightly. I put an arm around her shoulders and whispered, "Everything's going to be okay, Mom." But my own heart was still pounding, anxious about what might still come to light. The flight lasted nearly 12 hours, yet to me it felt like an endless journey back through time. We sat side by side in economy, the plane shuddering slightly as it lifted off, leaving Lion behind. She gazed out the window, eyes distant, while I held her hand, feeling the roughness of her fingers. My pulse raced, as if I were on the verge of uncovering a huge secret. "Mom, tell me, what have these 6 years really been like? Why didn't you ever say anything?" I asked gently but persistently. She stayed silent for a long time, gripping my hand harder, clearly wrestling with herself. The plane rocked through some clouds, and I thought she wouldn't answer. Then she sighed and began in a small voice, "All right. Let me tell you." She said the first few months after moving in with Kendrick's family had been peaceful enough. She looked after newborn Louis, cooked simple meals, did a little cleaning, and felt useful. I was happy, son. Holding my grandson, singing him the same lullabies I sang to you and Kendrick. The house felt warm. Camille even thanked me back then. She gave a faint smile, but it quickly faded. I listened, my heart beating faster, a bad feeling rising. And then what happened? When Camille returned to work after maternity leave, the atmosphere changed. Mom no longer just watched the baby. She had to do everything: laundry, cleaning, cooking 3 meals a day, grocery shopping. There was no time to breathe. At first, I thought it was temporary. Camille was busy with work, so I did it gladly. I believed I was helping my son and his family settle in. Her voice shook as she squeezed my hand. But the more time passed, the more Camille took it for granted and started giving orders like Mom was hired help. She'd say, "Mom, do this. Mom, clean that," and stopped saying thank you. If I did something not quite to her liking, she'd snap at me. I pictured the scenes and felt my chest tighten with anger. Whenever Mom made a mistake, Camille would yell, insult her, sometimes even call her useless. Like the night you saw, spilling the soup got me scolded instantly, but most days were worse. She'd say I was old, slow, couldn't do anything right. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she spoke, voice breaking. Kendrick always took his wife's side, blamed Mom, and treated her words like they were worthless. He'd say, "Mom, understand, Camille's tired," then turn around and comfort his wife. Whatever I said, he ignored me like I was a burden. Hearing this, I felt choked with rage, my grip on her hand trembling. The image of Kendrick shielding his wife, Camille's smug chin lift, it all came rushing back, making my blood boil. How could he? That's my own brother. Mom endured it all without ever telling me. Partly for little Louis. She was afraid if she left, her grandson would miss his grandma's care. Partly because she didn't want her 2 sons to fall out. I thought if I told you, you'd be furious with Kendrick. The family would fall apart. I love you boys, so I gritted my teeth and bore it. She broke down sobbing, shoulders shaking. I pulled her into my arms, tears spilling from my own eyes, heart tearing apart at the thought of her suffering alone for years. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I should have come sooner." She shook her head, wiped my tears, and whispered, "It's not your fault." I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm, then asked the question that had been burning inside me. "Mom, I've been sending money to Kendrick every month for your care. Did you ever see any of it?" She just gave a small shake of her head, eyes lowered. I never even knew that money existed, son." Her voice was soft, as if afraid of hurting me. She said whatever she ate was bought by Kendrick. Whatever she wore was decided by Camille. She never got to choose anything for herself. I live simply. I don't ask for much. I just did whatever they told me. It felt like a cold knife straight through my chest. For 6 years, Kendrick had pocketed every cent I sent for Mom while she slaved away like a servant in her own son's house. My heart stopped for a second, then pounded wildly, blood rushing to my head. The image of her bent over, scrubbing the floor, thin and worn, flashed vividly before me. Guilt and fury surged together like a storm. Kendrick, he took Mom's money. I sent it for you, for 6 whole years, and he... My voice shook, hot tears falling. Mom squeezed my hand, trying to comfort me. It's okay, son. Don't be angry. Maybe they were struggling. But I couldn't listen. Rage exploded inside me as I pictured Kendrick's awkward smile when he received the transfers. Then spending it on Camille while Mom worked herself to the bone. Guilt crashed over me. How could I have trusted him? Why didn't I check? 6 years she suffered alone for her grandson, for her sons. I held her tight, voice breaking. I'm so sorry, Mom. I was an idiot for believing him. She stroked my hair like when I was little. I don't blame you. The plane rocked through some turbulence, but the storm inside me was far greater. Anxiety turned into resolve. I won't let her suffer another day. I took her hands firmly, looked straight into her eyes, and said with absolute certainty, I won't let you suffer one more day. From now on, I will personally take care of you and make up for every year you lived in humiliation and loneliness. She cried but nodded, a weak smile forming. Thank you, my son. We spent the rest of the flight in silence, hands still clasped tight. I thought about the future. Mom living in Boston with me, Savannah, and Daisy. But Kendrick, I was done with him. My heart still raced, anger not yet cooled, but a small light of hope flickered. The truth was out, painful, but now she was free. When the plane touched down in Boston, a light rain was falling, yet my heart felt brighter. Mom stepped off the jetway, looking around the airport with unfamiliar eyes. It's been so long since I've been home, she whispered. I hugged her close. Welcome home, Mom. Deep down, though, I knew the journey wasn't over. Kendrick would call eventually, and I'd have to face him. The tension remained, but I was ready. Logan Airport was crowded, the PA system echoing overhead, but all I could focus on was Mom, her hand clutching mine tightly as if afraid she'd get lost. We took a taxi to our house in the Boston suburbs, a 2-story home with a small garden that Savannah and I had bought after we married. Rain pattered against the car windows as Mom stared out, her eyes distant. Boston has changed so much, son. Skyscrapers popping up like mushrooms. She spoke softly, but I could hear the unease in her voice. I squeezed her hand. You'll get used to it, Mom. Our place is really cozy. Still, my heart was racing. I was nervous about Savannah's reaction. My wife knew I'd gone to France to visit Mom, but she had no idea I was bringing her home. Would she be happy, or shocked to the point of annoyance? The thought made cold sweat break out on the back of my neck despite the warm car. After the nearly 12-hour flight, we finally pulled up to the house. I opened the door and the familiar smell of cooking drifted out. Savannah must be making something. Mom stepped inside, looking frail under her thin coat, her eyes sweeping across the bright living room with its leather sofa and family photos on the wall. Savannah came out of the kitchen, dish towel in hand, and froze when she saw me walk in with Ruth. Zane, you're back. And this is... Her eyes widened, eyebrows shooting up. Daisy, our 6-year-old daughter, came running from the playroom, ponytails bouncing, and asked in her innocent voice, Daddy, who's that lady? Is she here to play? My heart clenched, but I smiled, knelt down, and hugged her. This is your grandma, my mom. She's been living in France for years, and from now on she'll be living with us. Daisy looked at Mom, then broke into a huge grin. Grandma! I have a grandma now. Ruth smiled, tears welling up, and hugged her granddaughter for the first time. Savannah blinked, quickly composed herself, and gave a polite smile, though I caught the flash of surprise in her eyes. Oh, Mom? Hello? I'm Savannah. Why didn't you let us know? She hugged Mom lightly, but her voice was a little high, like she was trying to mask her shock. I explained briefly. It was a sudden decision. I wanted Mom to come live with us. She's exhausted. Let's get dinner ready and set up her room. After that, I let Grandma and granddaughter bond. Daisy dragged Mom by the hand into the playroom, showing off every toy while Mom smiled gently and stroked her hair. Meanwhile, Savannah and I quickly prepared dinner and fixed up the guest room so Mom could rest comfortably. Fresh sheets, new pillows, a vase of flowers on the nightstand, warm yellow lighting. As she helped, Savannah whispered, "Honey, why so sudden? Is everything okay?" I reassured her, "Everything's fine. Mom just needs us." But my heart was still pounding. I was worried the change was too much for her. Dinner was cozy, roast meat and salad that Savannah had thrown together quickly but deliciously. Mom ate little, but she smiled a lot as Daisy chattered about school. "Grandma, tell me about France," Daisy begged. Mom told her about the Rhone River in Lyon, her voice warm. Savannah asked kindly, "Are you tired, Mom? Shall I make you some tea?" Mom's eyes lit up at being cared for. After dinner, Mom went to bed early, exhausted from the journey. She shuffled upstairs but paused to smile. "Thank you, children." I kissed her forehead. "Rest well, Mom." Then I went into my home office, sat down at the desk with cold determination, and opened my laptop. The screen lit up. I logged into my bank account and canceled the monthly transfer I had been automatically sending Kendrick for Mom's care. A few clicks and the money stopped. My heart pounded hard as the memories from the plane flooded back. "He doesn't deserve a cent," I whispered, shutting the laptop. But the tension rose. How would he react? Just a few days later, as I expected, Kendrick called, furious. His name on the screen made my chest tighten. "Zane, why did you cut the money? I got the bank alert." His voice was shrill with rage. I took a deep breath and answered coldly, "That money was for Mom's care. She's with me now, so you'll have to take care of your own family." He exploded, yelling insults over the phone. "Who do you think you are? Mom was fine here. You stole her and now you cut us off, you selfish bastard." His words cut like knives, but I hung up decisively, ending all contact in the middle of his helpless fury. The phone buzzed a few more times. I ignored it. My heart raced, anger mixed with relief. It's over. At first, everything went smoothly. Savannah was very attentive to Mom, always asking, "Mom, have you eaten breakfast? Want me to make you a smoothie? Or, are your feet tired? Let me massage them." After years of being mistreated, Mom's eyes brightened whenever Savannah smiled at her. "You have such a good daughter-in-law," she whispered to me. The first few weeks passed gently. Ruth slowly regained her strength. Her face glowed again. She smiled more, and she began to resemble the cheerful mother I remembered. She strolled in the garden, cooked simple dishes, and the house felt warmer than ever. Watching them, I felt relief. Maybe everything really would be okay. But then I started noticing subtle changes, like a tiny crack appearing in a wall. Savannah began to get sensitive about Mom's presence. Sometimes she'd seem irritated when Mom tidied the kitchen or moved decorative items. "Honey, Mom rearranged the dishes again. I liked them where they were," she whispered one evening, sounding a little annoyed. I brushed it off. It's just her habit from living with Kendrick. But unease started creeping in. A few days later, I came home early from Carver Innovations and overheard Savannah telling Mom not to touch things without asking or give Daisy street snacks. "Mom, please don't give Daisy candy from outside. It's not clean. And leave the decorations where they are. I'm used to it." Her tone was polite but sharp. Mom just nodded quietly, that familiar resigned look on her face that instantly made my heart race. "Yes, I'm sorry," Mom murmured, head bowed. The sight cut me like a knife. It reminded me too much of France. I stepped in. "Savannah, she's only trying to help. Don't be so hard on her." Savannah gave an awkward smile. "I know, but..." Gradually, Mom withdrew again. Out of old habit from France, she started doing all the housework without being asked. Laundry, mopping, cooking. I told her it made me uncomfortable. "Mom, rest. I'll hire a cleaner." But she just smiled weakly and said she liked staying busy. "It makes me happy, son." My heart grew heavier. The unease kept building. Why was she doing this again? Was Savannah making her feel like Camille? The tension reached its peak one afternoon when I came home from work. From the doorway, I heard Savannah raising her voice in the living room, clearly upset. "Why did you break it? That was my favorite vase." My heart pounded like a drum. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. Mom was crouched on the floor picking up shards of pottery while Savannah stood over her, furious because Mom had accidentally broken her favorite vase, a souvenir from a trip. Mom tried to explain, voice trembling. "I'm so sorry, dear. I wasn't careful. I'll buy you a new one." But Savannah only grew more upset, her voice rising. "Mom, please just stay in your room and stop wandering around. I don't want to lose anything else." Seeing my frail mother hunched over, hands shaking as she gathered the broken pieces, snapped something inside me. The image of her on her knees scrubbing the floor in France flashed before my eyes, and rage erupted like hellfire. My heart went wild, blood rushed to my head, vision blurred. I stormed forward, face dark with fury. My eyes were so full of anger that Savannah instinctively stepped back, her face going pale. In that moment of lost control, I raised my hand and slapped my wife across the face. She staggered, clutching her cheek, bursting into shocked, sobbing tears. "Are you insane?" Mom froze, then rushed over to stop me, voice trembling. "Zane, no. Stop. I beg you." Savannah stood there, stunned and hurt, unable to believe I had just done that. I couldn't hear anything anymore. The sight of my mother being scolded and shrinking in submission in her own son's house choked me with rage, despair, and terror that the nightmare was repeating itself right in front of me. "No, you do not treat my mother like that," I roared, voice raw, heart breaking in two. After a few seconds of heavy silence, the living room felt frozen solid. Only Savannah's sobbing and my ragged breathing broke the stillness. I turned to Mom, my voice cold but resolute. "Mom, pack your things right now. We're leaving." She froze, eyes wide. "Son, what are you saying? This is your home." I didn't let her hesitate or cling to anything. I gripped her hand tightly. "Listen to me. Just take the essentials. I'm not leaving you here another minute." My heart was pounding wildly, adrenaline surging as I thought about the consequences. My marriage collapsing, what would happen to Daisy? But rage drowned everything else. Savannah panicked. She burst into louder sobs and lunged forward, trying to grab my arm. "Zane, no. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. Let's talk, please." Tears streamed down her face, her voice trembling with desperation, but I gently pushed her hands away, colder and more distant than she had ever seen me, the once gentle husband now an icy wall. "Enough, Savannah. You crossed the line." My voice was sharp as a blade. My chest ached seeing her collapse, but I didn't stop. Ruth quietly went upstairs, stuffed a few changes of clothes into her old worn bag, eyes red but silent, offering no protest. Daisy came running from the playroom, confused. "Daddy, where are you taking Grandma? Why is Mommy crying?" I knelt down and hugged her, voice thick. "Daddy and Grandma are just going for a little walk. Stay with Mommy, okay?" My heart shattered. The tension peaked as I thought about leaving my daughter behind. I led Mom out the door amid the chaos behind us. Savannah sank to the floor in desperate sobs, reaching out. "Zane, don't leave me!" I only tightened my grip on Mom's shoulder so she wouldn't look back, gently guiding her to the car. The door slammed shut. Savannah's cries echoed outside, but I didn't turn around. My heart thundered, cold sweat soaking my shirt, fear and determination warring inside me. What am I doing? Destroying my own family with my own hands? The thought flashed by, but the image of Mom cowering drove me to press the accelerator and speed away into the Boston drizzle. We were silent the whole long drive. Only the patter of rain and our heavy breathing filled the car. Mom sat beside me, staring out the window, clutching her bag tightly. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles went white, mind in turmoil. I quickly booked a small apartment in Somerville through an app. A simple place with a combined living room/kitchen, a double bed, cheap but clean. Once inside, Mom collapsed into a chair, face pale. "Son, why did you do this? Your family." I shook my head. "Don't worry, Mom. I'll be fine." But my heart raced, dreading what was coming. Savannah would call and I'd have to face it. That first night, Mom tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Guilt gnawed at her. She felt responsible for destroying her son's family. I heard her whisper in the dark, "I'm sorry, son. Because of me, you hit your wife and left your home." My chest ached. I sat up and comforted her. "It's not your fault. I was protecting you." But she cried quietly, shoulders shaking. I didn't sleep either. I stared at the ceiling for hours, tormenting myself. 6 years Mom had suffered in silence, and now I had let my marriage fall into the abyss. Memories flooded back. Our wedding day, Savannah's radiant smile, Daisy's birth, pure joy. Now everything was shattered because of my anger. Was I wrong? Or right? The question spun in my head until dawn, leaving me drenched in sweat. In the days that followed, I tried to create some normalcy. I took Mom shopping for new things, warm clothes, dishes, a few small decorations at a nearby mall. She hesitated. "Don't spend so much, son." I smiled. "You deserve far better than this." I took her for a checkup at the local hospital. The doctor said she was malnourished and needed rest. I cooked for her, massaged her feet, did everything to make her feel safe and not a burden. "You're my family," I told her. My heart warmed when she smiled, but the tension lingered. My phone kept buzzing. Savannah called nonstop, crying and begging me to come home and talk, promising to apologize to Mom and change. "Honey, I was wrong. I'll apologize to Mom. I swear I'll change. Daisy misses you so much." Her trembling voice came through the speaker, but I kept my distance, letting everything pass in silence. "I need time," I answered coldly and hung up. Each call was a knife to the heart. I kept picturing Daisy. Is she crying too? But the anger was still stronger. I didn't give in. Life with just the two of us slowly calmed us. Every morning I went to work at Carver Innovations, meetings, endless busyness. But coming home to Mom waiting with a smile made the day bearable. She stayed home, cooked, cleaned, trying to make the little apartment feel warm so I wouldn't feel the emptiness, the smell of familiar food, the table already set. "You're home. I made curry soup like when you were little," she'd say cheerfully. Dinner became our way of making up for 6 lost years. Ruth cautiously told old stories about my and Kendrick's childhood, picnics in Boston, while I told her about the years she missed. Big contracts, Daisy learning to swim. We laughed, but sometimes fell silent when the past came up. The longer we lived together, the happier Mom seemed. She smiled more, though she still lowered her eyes whenever Savannah's name came up. "Your wife is a good person. It was all just a misunderstanding," she'd whisper sadly. As for me, I lived in a strange mix of relief for protecting Mom and emptiness from a marriage that had shattered so suddenly and bitterly. Late at night, I sat on the tiny balcony staring at the city lights, remembering Savannah's arms around me as we slept. Daisy's laughter. Have I lost everything? The thought tightened my chest, leaving me anxious about the future. After several weeks of living apart, one late afternoon when I had just returned home from a long day at work, the doorbell rang. Mom called from the kitchen. "Son, someone's here." I opened the door and my heart stopped for a second. There stood Savannah holding Daisy's hand. Her face was haggard from sleepless nights, cheeks sunken, eyes red and puffy yet burning with determination, as though she had rehearsed this confrontation for hours. Little Daisy, her hair in bouncy ponytails, looked up at me with those big round eyes. "Daddy!" Savannah's voice trembled. "Zane, may we come in? I need to talk to you." I stood frozen, old anger surging alongside a flood of longing. Finally, I stepped aside reluctantly. "Come in." My tone was cold, but my heart raced as Daisy immediately dashed forward and threw her arms around Grandma, who had just emerged from the kitchen. The moment Daisy spotted her, she hugged her tight. The heavy atmosphere in the room instantly softened. "Grandma, I missed you so much," the little girl squealed, clinging to Ruth. Mom's face broke into a wide smile, tears brimming in her eyes. "Grandma missed you too, my precious girl." She stroked Daisy's hair, and in that moment the tiny apartment felt warmer. A child's laughter melted away some of the tension. I watched from a distance, my chest tightening. Daisy was innocent, and I had missed her desperately these past weeks. Savannah stood behind her daughter, fingers clenched around her purse strap, face pale. She took a deep breath, walked over, and bowed deeply to Mom. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I acted rashly and hurt you. I never should have spoken to you that way. I was wrong." Her voice shook, tears streamed down her cheeks. Then she turned to me. "Zane, I'm sorry. I didn't think before I spoke. I let my emotions take over. Please forgive me." I listened in silence, my face a blank mask. The anger still simmered, but seeing her like this also caused me pain. My heart pounded, nerves rising as I wondered what to say. Finally, I answered coldly, "You can bring Daisy to visit Grandma anytime you want. But I'm not ready to accept that apology. Not yet." My words cut like a knife. Savannah bowed her head even lower, sobbing. I understand. I'll wait." Mom shifted, about to speak. "Son." But when she saw the hardness in my eyes, she quietly fell silent, not wanting to hurt me again. She squeezed Daisy's hand and looked at me sadly, silently pleading with me to reconsider. After that day, over the following weeks, Savannah kept bringing Daisy to visit. She no longer behaved the way she used to, no more sharp reminders, only gentleness and small acts of care toward Mom. She asked about Mom's health. "How have you been eating, Mom? I brought some fruit you like." She played with Daisy and Grandma, laughing warmly when Mom told old stories. Sometimes she brought little gifts that Mom always cherished, a soft wool scarf or homemade cookies. "Mom, I made these with your old recipe. I hope you like them," Savannah would say gently. I watched quietly from the corner of the room and noticed how visibly happier Mom became each time Savannah came, especially when Grandma and granddaughter crowded together in the tiny kitchen. Daisy giggled as Mom taught her to bake. Mom held her close, eyes shining with joy. "I'm so happy, son, seeing my granddaughter like this," Mom whispered to me after one visit. My heart beat faster, nerves rising as I saw the change. Was Savannah being sincere? One evening, Mom invited Savannah to stay for dinner, her voice warm. "Stay and eat with Zane and me, dear? I made your favorite." Savannah glanced at me hesitantly, but I nodded permission. The atmosphere around the dinner table was unusually warm. Savannah talked more with Mom, asking about the years in France, listening attentively as Mom cautiously mentioned little Louis, trying hard to feel like part of the family again. "I'd love to hear more," she said with a genuine smile. I sat across from them, silently watching with guarded eyes, spoon gripped tightly. Savannah kept stealing glances at me, part guilt, part hope. Her eyes pleading, "Zane, I've changed." But I kept my distance, refusing to soften even a little, nodding only when necessary. My heart pounded, tension rising. Was this warmth real or just temporary? Those visits made me start to think. Mom was happier, smiling more whenever Daisy and Savannah came. She told stories, played, and the little apartment felt alive again. I watched Savannah closely. She was patient, attentive to Mom in every small way, pouring her water, helping clear the table, showing no trace of irritation. "She's really changed, son," Mom whispered one evening after dinner as we sat talking. I said nothing, staring out the dark window at the twinkling city lights. Mom gently urged me to reconsider. She could clearly feel that Savannah had changed, that she wasn't a bad person, just sometimes clumsy and insensitive. "Son, Forgiveness is a good thing. Don't let anger destroy your happiness, she said, placing her hand over mine, her voice pleading. This time I didn't brush her off as I had before. Despite the lingering anger and hurt, something inside me began to waver as I saw Savannah's persistent effort and the smile slowly returning to Mom's face. My heart raced, nerves surging at the possibility of going back. Was it worth it? Could the nightmare repeat itself? I remembered the happy years with Savannah, our trips together, falling asleep in each other's arms the day Daisy was born. Now she was trying so hard, bringing Daisy every week, apologizing sincerely. Maybe Mom is right. Maybe I should open my heart and forgive, I thought to myself. Those days, the little apartment in Somerville gradually became more familiar, yet the air still carried a lingering heaviness, as if waiting for a storm to break. Mom began to settle in. She'd wake early to brew coffee for me, tell old stories in her warm voice, and I tried to respond with tales from Carver Innovations. New contracts, stressful meetings. But every evening as we sat at the small dining table, I felt the emptiness keenly. No Daisy's bright laughter, no Savannah across from me with her tired smile after a long day. Mom noticed. She gently advised, "Son, life isn't always perfect, but family is about forgiveness." I nodded, yet my heart remained tangled, anxious about what might come next. Kendrick stayed silent from across the ocean. No calls, no messages. He was probably struggling with the consequences of his own actions. Or plotting something. I knew my brother. He wasn't the type to give up easily. One chilly weekend afternoon in Boston, with golden leaves drifting past the window, I was sitting in the living room reading the paper while Mom knitted quietly in the kitchen. Suddenly there was frantic knocking at the door. "Who is it, son?" Mom called, her voice trembling slightly. I stood, walked over, and opened the door. Time froze. Kendrick burst in, face ashen, eyes bloodshot, and collapsed to his knees right in front of Mom as she stepped out of the kitchen. His voice broke. "Mom, I'm sorry. Please forgive me." I stood stunned, staring at my brother. Kendrick looked painfully thin, clothes wrinkled as if he hadn't changed in days, eyes hollow. The old arrogance, the forced smiles, the evasive glances when I'd visited Lion was completely gone. All that remained was a broken man crushed by life. He clutched Mom's legs, tears streaming down his face, voice shaking. "Mom, everything fell apart the day you left France. I lost my job. They fired me for lack of focus. Debts piled up from loans Camille forced me to take. The bank foreclosed on the house. We had to move into a cheap motel. And Camille, she filed for divorce, took Louis, and left, calling me useless, saying I couldn't provide for the family." He looked up at Mom, voice cracking. "I nearly broke down completely, Mom. I've lost everything. The only thing I want now is your forgiveness and my brother's help. Zane, please, help me." Mom's eyes filled with tears. Maternal instinct made her reach out instantly, hands trembling. "My boy, stand up." But when she caught my hard, angry, disappointed stare, she froze, hand pulling back, afraid to act too quickly. She stood there, shoulders shaking, tears rolling down her cheeks, her heart clearly torn between love for her son and fear of hurting me again. I looked at the man kneeling before me. No longer the rebellious little brother who used to give awkward smiles and avoid my eyes in Lion, but a man who had driven himself into the abyss through greed and selfishness. For 6 years he took the money I sent, spent it on himself, and let Mom live like a servant. And now he came crawling back, begging? My heart pounded, nerves and rage surging together. Should I forgive him, or throw him out and let him taste the full consequences? I drew a deep breath and spoke, cold and clear. "Kendrick, you're reaping exactly what you sowed with Mom. A man who can't take care of his own mother doesn't deserve anyone else's care. You let her live like a maid, pocketed the money I sent, and now you've lost everything? You deserve it." Kendrick bowed his head lower, sobbing. "You're right, bro. I was wrong. I regret it so much." I declared that I couldn't help someone who had treated our mother like a servant and shown no gratitude, and told him to leave before things got worse. Get out, Kendrick. I can't help you. Don't come back. Mom immediately stopped me, grabbing my arm tightly, pleading that Kendrick was still my brother, still blood, and if he truly recognized his mistakes, he deserved a chance to stand up again. Son, he's your brother, flesh and blood. He's bowed his head already. Give him a chance. Don't let our family fall apart any further. Her voice shook, tears streaming, hand gripping mine as if terrified that letting go would lose everything. I stood silent for a long moment, watching Mom tremble with fear that the family would shatter once more. The resolve inside me slowly gave way to compassion and respect for her. She had endured 6 years of suffering just to keep her sons from fighting. Now she was begging like this. How could I refuse? My heart raced, nerves rising at the decision. Forgiving Kendrick, would it be a mistake? Finally, I nodded and said I would give him one single chance, and everything afterward would depend on whether he truly changed. Fine, one chance. But if you don't change, I'm cutting you off forever. Kendrick broke down sobbing like a child, bowing to Mom in gratitude. Mom, thank you. Bro, I won't let you down. Mom, heartbroken yet relieved that her wayward son had finally humbled himself, whispered, Stand up, my boy, I forgive you. She pulled Kendrick into a tight embrace, tears soaking his shoulder. I stood beside them, watching my mother and brother hold each other, my heart heavy yet calmer. I knew I had done the right thing, protecting Mom while preserving what was left of our family. My pulse still raced, nerves lingering about the future. Would Kendrick really change? Or was this just temporary? After that tear-filled afternoon, I arranged a cheap rental apartment for Kendrick on the outskirts of Boston. A simple place, but enough for him to start rebuilding his life after everything had collapsed. This is where you'll stay for now, I said as I handed him the keys, my voice calm but firm. Kendrick looked around the bare room, eyes red. Thank you, bro. I'll do my best. My heart pounded, nerves rising at the thought that he might fail. If he did, I'd cut him off immediately. Yet seeing him so thin, wearing worn-out clothes, a trace of pity crept in despite the anger still smoldering inside me. Next, I secured him a modest position at Carver Innovations. Stable work, but he'd have to earn everything himself, no more leaning on others. I called HR and placed him in the technical support department. Desk work, basic salary, no special treatment. You start from the bottom. Prove yourself, I told him bluntly on his first day at the office. Kendrick nodded eagerly, eyes lighting up with hope. I'll do well, I promise. I made it clear this was his only chance. If he slipped up or showed ingratitude, I'd take it all back and cut him off for good. Don't think forgiveness comes easy. One mistake and you're on your own. My voice was ice cold, heart racing with tension. Would he get it or repeat the same mistakes? Kendrick bowed his head. I know. I won't let you down. From then on, Kendrick worked quietly and harder than ever, trying to prove his change was real so he wouldn't disappoint Mom or me. From a distance, I observed he arrived early, stayed late, learned the tech systems quickly, never complained even though the job wasn't easy. Bro, I finished the report, he'd say weakly, voice humble. Mom beamed when she heard, my boy is improving. But I stayed cautious, checking his records monthly. No signs of slacking, no early salary demands. Maybe he really has changed, I thought, though I didn't admit it out loud. Memories of Lion still haunted me. Him siding with his wife, letting Mom suffer. So I remained on guard. As for Savannah, in the weeks that followed, she visited Mom even more often, talking with a patience and care she had never shown before. She came every week with Daisy and little gifts. Homemade cake, books, fresh flowers. Mom, I brought the herbal tea you like. How are you feeling? She'd ask gently, sitting beside Mom for hours listening to old stories. Mom's face lit up. Such a good daughter-in-law. I watched from afar and saw in every gesture that Savannah had truly changed. She listened when Mom spoke, apologized if she misspoke, put family above her own ego. She played with Daisy and Grandma, helped in the kitchen without complaint, even asked Mom's advice on cooking. "Teach me your chicken soup recipe, Mom," she'd say with a sincere smile. My heart beat faster, nerves rising as I witnessed the change. Was it genuine or just an act? Behind my cold exterior, I still kept my distance, only nodding in greeting. I knew deep down that my love for Savannah had never died. It had only been buried under disappointment and hurt. On lonely nights, I missed her, the familiar scent of her perfume, her tired smile after work. She's trying every single day, I thought, chest aching. Tension grew as I considered reconciliation. What if it happened again? I hesitated, but Mom kept advising, "Son, give your wife a chance." I nodded, my resolve beginning to soften. One afternoon, as we walked along the Charles River in the cool autumn breeze, Savannah gently took my hand and spoke in a trembling voice. Not begging me to forget everything, just asking for one chance to prove she had changed. "Zane, I don't expect you to erase what happened. I just want one chance to show you I'm different now." I stopped walking and looked straight into her eyes. There was no longer any arrogance, only regret and the sincere love I had once known. My heart pounded hard, nerves peaking as memories flooded back. Our early startup days, the night Daisy was born. I knew I could never fully turn my back on this woman. "Okay," I whispered and took her hand. From that day on, we quietly rebuilt with small things. Dinners with Mom sitting beside us, smiling as we talked. Weekend outings to the park, Daisy cheering when Mom and Dad held hands. Evenings tidying the old apartment together, Savannah helping Mom clean the kitchen without a single complaint. "I'm learning from you now, Mom," she'd laugh. My heart gradually warmed. The tension eased as happiness returned. A few months later, we moved into a larger, more comfortable house, not extravagant but warm, where 3 generations could live together in respect and love. It was in Newton with a small backyard, a private room for Mom and space for Daisy to run around. "It's a beautiful home, son," Mom said, eyes shining. We moved in and Savannah hugged her. "From now on, you're with us forever, Mom." Kendrick still visited Mom from time to time, bringing a basket of fruit, a new scarf, or just a few kind words. Small but sincere gestures. "Mom, I brought fresh oranges," he'd say with a humble smile. Mom hugged him. "My good boy." I nodded, tension fading as I saw him stabilizing. Steady job, slowly paying off debts. A year passed and Mom fully recovered, sharp-minded, healthier, her gentle face glowing with smiles every morning. She tended the garden, told Daisy stories, and lived joyfully. Family dinners became the most precious moments. Daisy's laughter as she recounted school adventures, Mom telling us to eat one more bite. Savannah softly talking about her day, and Kendrick's grateful glance at me whenever he visited. "Thank you, bro," he'd whisper. My heart was finally at peace, the tension gone. A new, better life had begun. And then that Christmas arrived, warmer than any I had ever known. The new house in Newton was filled with the scent of freshly baked gingerbread cookies, the crisp fragrance of the pine tree we had just set up in the living room, and soft Christmas music drifting from the speakers. Outside, snow fell gently, blanketing the backyard in a thin layer of white, while inside was a whole world of warmth I had once thought lost forever. Savannah bustled in the kitchen wearing a red sweater, hair tied high, stirring cranberry sauce while laughing with Daisy, who sat on a high stool decorating snowman-shaped cookies. Mom, Ruth, was at the big dining table with her granddaughter, carefully folding napkins into tulip shapes. The two whispered secrets to each other, and every now and then Daisy's bright laughter rang out when Grandma told stories about Santa Claus from long ago. I leaned against the kitchen doorway holding a mug of mulled wine, quietly taking in the scene with a peace I hadn't felt in years. My heart no longer raced with worry, only a deep sense of wholeness, as if every broken piece of my life had finally been put back in its rightful place. The whole family was ready for dinner. The long table was beautifully set with red candles, evergreen wreaths, and steaming dishes, roast turkey, mashed potatoes, pan-seared vegetables, cheesy dinner rolls. Yet even though everyone had taken their seats and Daisy was excitedly holding her fork, we all instinctively glanced toward the front door as if someone were still missing. Mom gently placed a hand over her heart, eyes full of quiet hope. Savannah looked at me and gave a small smile, unable to hide a touch of nervousness. Daisy whispered, "Is Uncle Kendrick coming, Daddy?" I didn't answer right away, just glanced at the clock. I had sent the invitation 2 weeks earlier. No pressure. This was a special day, and if he chose to show up, it would be the final proof of his change. Then the door opened, softly but clearly in the expectant silence. Kendrick stepped in, looking far more mature than before. Clean gray sweater, neatly trimmed hair, carrying a bouquet of white lilies and a gift wrapped in red paper. His eyes shone with gratitude and the seriousness of someone who had truly changed. No trace left of the old arrogance or evasion. Mom was the first to rise, tears welling up, and she rushed to embrace her youngest son. "Kendrick, you came." Savannah smiled warmly and welcomed him. "Come in. We've all been waiting for you." Daisy ran over and tugged at his hand. "Uncle Kendrick, I've been waiting for you to cut the cake." I stood still for a moment, watching my brother enter our home with humility and sincerity, and felt the full circle of that moment close, like the final piece falling perfectly into place. The Christmas dinner unfolded in a joy I had never dared dream of. Laughter filled the house as Daisy told stories of Santa getting lost, as Mom recalled our very first Christmas in Boston. "You two fought over the candy canes on the tree so badly you nearly came to blows." And this time Kendrick laughed openly, no longer dodging the past, even adding his own memory. "I remember you hid all the candy in your stocking and Mom had to fish it out and split it fairly." Savannah poured wine for everyone, her eyes sparkling when they met mine. Food was shared, old stories were retold, no longer painful but beautiful memories told with warmth and laughter instead of tears. The wounds of the past seemed fully healed that night. We all looked toward the future with lighter, more forgiving hearts. I watched Mom beaming as her 2 sons sat on either side of her, watched Savannah gently serve her food, watched Daisy perched on Kendrick's lap singing Jingle Bells, and I knew we had made it through. When the meal ended, everyone pitched in to clean up. Kendrick stayed to help without being asked. We gathered around the fireplace, listening to the crackle of burning logs, sipping hot chocolate. I quietly looked at everyone, Mom, Savannah, Daisy, and even Kendrick, now truly changed, and understood the real meaning of family. It isn't about perfection or never making mistakes. It's about the strength to stand up after being hurt, the willingness to make amends, and the courage to give others a chance to become better. The lesson from that turbulent year became clearer than ever. Stand up and protect the ones you love when they are at their weakest. As I did for Mom and Lion, be strong enough to walk away when silence becomes a wound. As I did the day I took Mom from a house that was no longer a home. And open your heart at the right moment when someone truly wants to change, as I did when I forgave Savannah and gave Kendrick one final chance to become a better man. And if I have one message for anyone reading these words, it is this: family doesn't survive because of perfection. It survives because of kindness, respect, and the will to change for one another. Everyone makes mistakes. Every relationship bears scars. But as long as we still have the courage to bow our heads and admit fault, the generosity to forgive, and the love to offer one more chance, then family will always be the place we can come home to, no matter how broken it once seemed. That Christmas, beneath the twinkling lights of the tree and the sound of jingle bells playing from the old radio, I hugged Mom, hugged Savannah, hugged Daisy, and for the first time in a very long while I smiled with no trace of tension left in my heart. A new life had truly begun, and it was more beautiful than I had ever dreamed.